these are two people who have been so huge throughout the history of AS and throughout this semester. And I'm here just a student sitting next to two superstars. But now as I go through my journey toward AS and towards student advocacy, I come toward a thinking of AS doesn't need celebrities. AS needs regular students, just like you. My name is Ilyas. I look forward to running in this election, and I look forward to being one of the underdog. I'm an underdog in this election. Addressing an elephant that has been walking around through this campus, I have no slate. I'm not running with a team of people. I am running on the idea that the students decide my government. The students decide what goes on campus and who gets these executive positions. I'm looking forward to being one of the underdog. I'm looking forward to being an underdog in this election. And with the help of everyone out here, I'm looking forward to making a shocker in this AS election, beating up the two superstars
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go, Tariq, can you go next?
Tariq, yes, and I'm just a student too, guys. Thank you. All right, is this part of my time? I can start now. Thank you all for coming to these debates. Through my time here at SDSU, I have served as the Vice Chair of Financial Affairs Committee, AS, Student at Large, VP of Outreach for Entrepreneurship Society, VP of Outreach for In the Mix DJ Club. I am the founder of the historic all-inclusive BST Philanthropy Initiative, co-creator of the Alcohol and Other Drug Accredited Event, the host of the Art of Innovation Entrepreneurship Society podcast, director of Brotherhood for Tau Kappa Epsilon, a Lavin entrepreneur, as well as being a member of 3 other cultural and business organizations. And whenever AS needs me to MC any of their events, I'll do that too. Through my AS involvements, I am fully aware of AS's change-making capacity. Through my involvements outside of AS, I have an understanding of different types of students, cultures, experiences, and goals. I'm here because my team and I have a vision of where we want to take this school. I'm here to ensure to you that students' voices will no longer be excluded from this vision. Our vision is you, the student. I strive to strengthen our model of shared governance so that administration faces adequate checks and balances, not just performative ones, so we can work to mitigate the current power imbalance that exists at Associated Students. Thank you.
Thank you. You're up, Leanne.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the Daily Aztec for hosting these debates today. Thank you to the audience for being here. Thank you for SDS United and the support. And thank you very much for just everybody in general for being here. I also want to acknowledge that we are on Kumeyaay land. I'd like to start off by saying I've always been a very passionate individual. And those that know me, including my opponents, know this. I do everything from the heart because I care. And that means I don't need everybody to know everything that I'm doing because I'm okay with doing it humbly. That doesn't mean I need to be the loudest person in the room because I know people will see what I'm doing. But I'd also like to say that I am a very family-oriented person, which is why I value community. And this is something that San Diego State University and associated students have brought me. I am so thankful for this community, and that's something that I want to share with the rest of this university. And that's why I'm here today. I've been able to find this community through philanthropic efforts, such as being a part of the dance marathon leadership team last year and being the team captain for the Associated Students dance marathon team this year. I was also on the Aztec's Rock Hunger leadership team as a volunteer coordinator, and am also a proud member of Rotaract. I've also found the power in my voice and in students' voice in Associated Students. That is why I'm here today. I am here because I'm committed to being your next AS president, a title that less than 10% of women have ever held. Thank you.
All right, thank you. For this next one, we're going to have 1 minute and 30 seconds as well. Let's start off with Leanne. What inspired you to try and achieve this role?
Thank you for that. As I've touched on before, It's the community that I found coming here. I've always been a passionate individual, very driven, and the second I stepped onto this university, I was inspired to reach out how to get involved with associated students. And I think that's something that also taught me a lot about associated students. Sitting on both parts, University Council and Campus Life Council, as a College of Health and Human Services representative and the current campus community representative, I've been able to learn so much about associated students. And I think shared governance on this campus is collapsing. For example, there is a satellite research center in Oaxaca that was introduced to the public after it was already moving forward with no student input this year. Another example, Chula Vista in SDSU is building an entire film and production studio that students have heard nothing about. Another example, an entirely additional campus is going to be completed by 2030, and the promise of affordable housing on this campus is absent in the discussion. I am up on this stage today because I refuse to allow this list to continue without the student voice in every single space, not just at the table, but at the table before a project's vision is already complete. Thank you.
Tarek, you're up next.
I am next. I am here because I was inspired by my parents. My parents are both immigrants from Egypt. My dad moved here. His degree did not transfer with him. He worked 2 jobs, had me as a child, and was working to get his bachelor's degree at age 38 while providing for me and my family. We lived just above the poverty line. I am here running for president for students like my parents who don't have the resources to be able to care about anything else besides survival. There are people like my parents at this school whose resources like the ECRT, the food pantry, the children's center would help out immensely. In the recent past, we've almost run out of funding for those resources. That would be absolutely detrimental to students on this campus because that would take away their education as their #1 priority. The essence of why every student is at SDSU is to get an education so they can graduate and have a fulfilling career. I want to make sure that no student ever thinks about where their next meal is going to come from or where they're going to leave their child for the day, when they have a test tomorrow, when they have to focus on their GPA, and when they have to focus on the relationships on campus. Their #1 priority is their education and what they do here at school so they can graduate, become self-sufficient, and provide for their family the same way that my parents do.
Thank you. Ilyas, you're up next. You need me to read the question again? What inspired you to try and achieve this role?
Many things inspired me to achieve this role. But there is one phrase that does it: representing the underrepresented. Throughout this campus, so many students have been historically underrepresented. I am sitting here between these 2 candidates as the only candidate who does not represent Greek life. So many students on campus here who are part of the majority of the students, not in Greek life, who have been underrepresented throughout AS. AS needs students who represent everybody. Although Greek life is important, it's a great part of this campus, there's also parts of it that are not the best. And there are also students who have been predominantly underrepresented throughout AS. At the same time, we look at the administration level. It's unpopular to talk bad about administration here on campus, but unnecessary fees have been presented upon students. Do we want more fees to happen? No. We ask ourselves as well, minority communities have been attacked and overlooked throughout this campus. I am inspired by a group of people who I've been working with throughout AS, and that's MSA, the Muslim Student Association. We have had our hijabi sisters attacked on campus, thrown a soda can at them. And what has happened? A meeting. No accountability. We have had our friends who are street vendors from the Hispanic community attacked on campus. What has happened? No accountability. We want accountability in AS, we want accountability at SDSU, we want to represent the underrepresented. Thank you.
All right, for this next section, it's going to be 2 minutes. We're going to start off with Leanne. In your time as AS Campus Community Representative, Aztec Shops Board of Director, College of Health and Human Services Representative, Aztec Rock Hunger and Dance Marathon Leadership Team, what specifically have you learned from the different positions, and how can you apply it to this role?
Thank you for that question. I think something that I've learned that's very important is to listen. The power of listening, because our role as Associated Students leaders is to best represent the student body. But not only that, not to just speak on behalf of them, but to uplift their voice and invite them into spaces where those changes are being made, where those decisions are being made, and making sure that we hold administration accountable. So what I've learned throughout these different roles is, yes, I have been involved in Associated Students for the past 2.5 years, and I've been able to learn a broad array of the student needs, such as campus safety needs, expanding on the current resources that we have, and learning about the new resources that we need to implement, and also the need to make Associated Students accessible. That's why I'm here wearing pink today. It's more than just a color. This represents the vibrancy that I'm trying to bring to this campus. It represents that you don't always need to be wearing the same color. You can do something new. And it also represents Women's History Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Elias, you're next.
What's the question?
In your time as representative of the College of Arts and Letters, what have you learned from the different positions, and how can you apply it to this role?
What I have learned as being the representative from the College of Arts and Letters is, again, representing the students who haven't been represented on this campus. There have been so many of them, whether they're political science students like myself or other students who are part of other colleges who haven't been represented. As the College of Arts and Letters representative, I sit on the University Council. And on this council, I've had the blessing to sit next to representatives from other colleges. I've collaborated with the College of Engineering, the College of Business, the College of PSFA, and so many other colleges with regards to standing up for students. We look at so many different aspects of this university that need addressing. I'm going to go back to campus fees. Recently, I was able to talk at the CFAC committee, the Campus Fee Advisory Committee, and we were able to get a huge win for out-of-state and international students. We have been able to scrap, not pass on, the $1,500 fee for the $1,500 fee for students who are coming in internationally and from out of state. Thank you.
Tarek, as serving as AS Vice Chair of the Financial Affairs Committee, AS Student at Large, VP Outreach for Entrepreneurship Society, and Director of Brotherhood for TKE, VP Outreach for In the Mix DJ Club, what have you specifically learned from the different positions, and how can you apply it to this role?
I think it's important to acknowledge that we have all different types of students on this campus. If you want to look at my experience as VP or Vice Chair of Financial Affairs Committee, we have a $36 million budget for Associated Students. I see the way that that budget operates. I see where the money's going. I'm sure students are interested in the solutions that exist for them within this $36 million budget. My opponent talks about the CFAC meeting that just happened. I also went, I talked, I said, I'm the Vice Chair of Financial Affairs Committee. I see that there are solutions internally within AS's budget, within SDSU's budget, within CSU's budget. We should never look to burden our students with extra fees before we look for solutions internally. I told CFAC that. We ended up suggesting no with the help of me, Ilias, and other students who commented through a public comment at that CFAC meeting. Now let's take a step to the side. Let's look at something completely different. VP of Outreach for In the Mix DJ Club, right? We have students on campus that are extremely musically and artistically inclined. I make sure that I hear their voices. I make sure I learn from them. Let's take a step to the other side. Now I'm in Director of Brotherhood for Tau Kappa Epsilon. I have values that align with friendship. I am the founder of BST Philanthropy Initiative. I have values that align with philanthropy, friendship, music, business organizations. It's important to acknowledge that all these different types of students exist. How can I fight for students to administration if I don't understand students? Through my time and through my experiences, I've been able to understand students so that I can fight for students. I also want to mention that I have an understanding of a wide variety of students. I have also supplemented this understanding with my executive team. That's why I've brought in people from different demographics. Student diversity representative Noah Hakim has an amazing understanding of cultural groups on this campus. That's why he's my VP of External Relations. Josh Dion has an amazing understanding of 9% of the population. IFC president. That's why I brought these people on.
Thank you. All right. For this next section, any of you can speak. I would suggest all of you speak on it. What does the president do? What does the president do in your eyes, and what responsibility do they have towards the administration, and what responsibilities do they have towards the student body? Speak freely, but be aware that there is time.
Okay, I can start. How much time do I have?
Just go back and forth. This is a 5-minute total section.
All right, so it's about the president's responsibilities?
Yes.
Okay, the president's responsibilities are to represent students. That means when they're tasked with standing up to administration, they have answers, they have solutions for the tough questions that administration asks. Administration's gonna try to shut you down. Administration's gonna try to silence you. I'm gonna make sure the student voice is no longer silenced from administration. I'm gonna make sure shared governance is not only upheld, but strengthened. Right now, through this Campus Fee Advisory Committee, they're trying to pass a $1,500 fee on international and out-of-state students per semester. You know what all the students can do is suggest on it. That is called an alternative consultation. Alternative consultation is not the best way for students to get their voices heard. Student engagement is not great with alternative consultations. On this fee, only 250 students made their voices heard out of 34,000. Let's talk about how we can strengthen shared governance. The strengthening of shared governance looks like the jump from alternative consultation into a referendum. A referendum is where the popular vote of students actually makes a difference. Students vote if something passes or not. We need to talk to administration and say, this is the criteria for a referendum, and this is the criteria for an alternative consultation. When we can jump from more alternative consultations to more referendums, that's how shared governance is strengthened, and that's how the student voice is heard.
I'll speak a little bit more on this, actually. So I think understanding the responsibilities as president is vital. In order, once you get into that position, you need to start making change. We need things right now. And so, as mentioned before, the Campus Fee Advisory Committee, if I'm elected, I would be sitting on this committee. And it's very important to understand this. As my opponent has mentioned, we do have AS funding, and that is around a $36 million budget. However, the university has $1 billion budget. So it is not representative to use the Associated Students' budget to allocate that money towards what this university should be paying for. That is not Associated Students' responsibility when they are paying employees and running facilities. So I think that's one thing to note and how we could correct that. Another thing is that the president would sit on the Student Senate in addition to plan those Senate meetings. This is extremely critical to ensure that the student voice and perspective is being brought to these meetings, because these are meetings where a majority of administration are sitting. Also, I sit on the board of director of Aztec Shops, and I will continue that position being president if I am elected. So that includes meal plans, Snapdragon Stadium, equitable access. All of these things are so important to have that student perspective to be able to advocate the best for students. And I understand many of these issues are intersectional, which is why I have a team that is well equipped to represent the students coming from different backgrounds, different identities, different communities. And so that is my goal. That is why I'm here today, to represent this, because I have a deep and profound understanding of this position, and I'm ready to make the change. Thank you.
Do we have time for rebuttals for this question?
Elias, can you speak first? Then
Absolutely, yeah. So I want to say, first of all, both points are fantastic. But at the same time, actions speak louder than words. And I'll say one thing. Been there, done that. I've already tried to push the referendum on campus. I have told administration, I've created a document, I've told them there will be no more alternative consultation. We will vote for what we want. But let me tell you guys the results of what happened from that. I have been told that a referendum cannot happen. We need realistic goals. A referendum will not happen right away, so I'm calling for one thing. If administration wants to keep this so-called alternative consultation, this is what we're going to do. Every year on the CFAC committee comes out with a new fee. Every single year. A person who is a senior now has dealt with a new fee being proposed since their freshman year. I am calling for a start of having no more fees every year. There will be no more alternative consultation. There will be not only no referendum or alternative consultation, there will be no new fees. If someone gets a new fee from their freshman year, they won't get another one until their senior year, if not after. In addition to that, we're discussing fees because it's tremendously important to save money for our students. A statistic that I have recently learned is with the student success fee, a fee that students apply for. Only 10% of the student success fee goes towards students. 90% goes towards tenure track faculty, and that's what needs to change. Unacceptable. That is correct. Thank you.
We'll give 30 more seconds to respond.
I can go real quick. So I just really want to touch on that as well. I think that when thinking about these fees, I think it's important to understand that we need transparency from the university and their mission to achieve R1 status, which essentially is the highest classification for a research university. We need to understand the needs of students now, not just reaching this R1 status, but this also includes ensuring that we're not being charged these fees. As mentioned before, I am not gonna sit here and stand here and give you false promises because I'm gonna be realistic with you. I can't tell you as much as I want to that there's going to be no more fees, but I will assure you that I will do everything in my power to advocate on behalf of students that we are exhausting all other options before charging students. Thank you.
Yeah. So one of my opponents mentioned that AAS has a $36 million budget, SDSU has a $1 billion budget, the CSU has their own budget. I did mention that fees can be looked for, or solutions can be looked for internally before we burden our students. I mentioned that those solutions exist within SDSU's $1 billion budget. I've never seen one of my opponents at a financial affairs committee. I don't think they understand how.
CFAC.
Financial affairs committee? That's
CFAC,
campus fee advisory, campus fee advisory committee.
They're the ones who make the fees.
Financial affairs committee meets every Monday. We talk about how the fees are allocated. We talk about where the budget goes. I have an understanding, and I have an understanding of where this budget can be reevaluated and where we can prime it to save students money. Not only save students money, give students money through RSOs.
Thank you.
That's being part of the bureaucracy.
Elias, you have 30 seconds, and then we're cutting it for this section. Thank you.
SDSU has historically had this bureaucracy of a financial affairs committee where they go there, they discuss what they do in terms of finances, but are students actually seeing this money? The answer is no. Like I said earlier, of the student success fee, only 10% actually goes towards students, and that's not being addressed. I mean, if we're going to all these committees, then why aren't we actually doing work on it? That's why we need a newcomer to these kind of committees like myself, who's going to be there and actually stand up for students, not just be part of this bureaucracy.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to go into a different section. It's going to be a minute and 30 seconds. And they're going to be specific questions of your statements. Tarek, go into detail of how you will make AS funding resources easier to access for students.
Easier to access. Let's streamline how we look at these funds. Right now in Financial Affairs Committee, there are so many buckets of money, and if you have one event that you're trying to do as an RSO, you may need to go through 4 different meetings, potentially. You may need to do a request for a travel fund, and you may need to do a request for an operational budget when you can't just ask for a one-time budget. This budget is very hard to get. It's very hard for an RSO to be able to come into Financial Affairs Committee and get money. Along with that, students aren't even aware of it. When I first joined Financial Affairs Committee, I saw the same RSOs every single week requesting money. I'm amazed that those RSOs are doing that. Not enough RSOs were doing that. I made it my priority to go reach out to those clubs, let them know about the funding they have available to them, let them know that they no longer have to look into their own pockets Never look into your own pockets when AS is here to support you. I look at these pools of money and I see that the number has not changed drastically from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. We still have thousands of dollars that shouldn't be in there because they should have been given to students. I want to create a task force with my VP of Finance, Josh Dion, to make sure that students know about the funds that are available to them. Students can save money. We give students money. Students can hire guest speakers so they can have professional opportunities. They can have professional interviews, and they can have food at their meetings. These are things that students look for in their own pockets, and they can only bring in speakers once a month since they don't know about it.
Thank you. Elias, go into detail how you plan to make the process more transparent of what is happening in the administration and AS to the student body.
AS needs a man of the people. AS doesn't need students who are coming to debates with a suit and tie on. We need a regular student, just like you. A student who's going to be out there in the community, whether it's through organizations, whether it's through walking around campus, whether it's through having office hours. AS needs to go to the students, not have the students have to come to them. Like I said earlier, AS needs a regular student, not someone part of the bureaucracy, not someone who's gonna say it's okay that administration is giving us extra fees every year. AS needs someone who's gonna be there for the people. Thank you.
Leanne, go into detail of how you will create greater accessibility to basic need resources to the different student communities.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that question. And I think, again, it's important to realize that different communities need different things. There's not just one approach to take. And that's why currently sitting as a campus community representative, we've also re-implemented the Campus Safety Initiative and Subcommittee. And I think through this, I've been able to learn about campus safety needs, which essentially is a basic need. Working with my VP of Finance, Leo Peña, I think that he will be the perfect fit in order to implement these resources. Throughout our time campaigning, doing walkarounds, I think it's important to understand that yes, we are campaigning and we want people to know all of the people that are running, but at the same time, we want people to know what AS is. We're using this as an opportunity to share what Associated Students is and let people know that they can count on us and that this is more than just an election. This started the second that me and my team decided to run for these positions. It doesn't start once you get elected, it starts now, and it started months ago. You need to make sure that you are constantly advocating for these students and understanding their needs in order for us to be able to equitably give access to these needs to all students. Thank you.
Do we have time for a rebuttal?
No, not right in this section. Elias, what are your other plans in this role other than transparency and advocacy?
My role is unity. We have students here, and like I said, I'm going to address the elephant in the room that I'm not running on a slate. And I wanted to say, aside from everything, thank you to my community who has come out and shown support. I don't have a slate of people who are trying to get positions also in AS. I have a team of people behind me who have been part of their community and they have been part of mine, who know the unity that I promote on campus. We look here and it's almost shameful why the slates aren't even clapping when my opponents are both making good points. With regards to unity, like I said, students need someone of the people who's going to be out there uniting students, not dividing them. Thank you.
Elias, you said something of you didn't run in a slate, so why didn't you run in a slate?
I didn't run as a slate because it's not my duty to choose for students. Students deserve to choose who their representatives are. I am asking you to vote me as president and then vote whoever you want as the EVP role for the VP finance role and all the VP external affairs and all the other roles at AS. I'm not going to sit here and tell you vote for me and vote for him and her and her and her, because that creates a monopoly of student government on campus, and that's not what we need. I want to see a student government, whether it's with me as president or Liane or Tariq. I want to see a student government who is mixed between slates, not one slate having a monopoly on the student government.
Thank you. Now this is going to be both for Tariq and Liane. why did you run in a slate, and what is the purpose of a slate?
I can start off. So thank you for that question, and I think that's a very important question. And I'm proud to say that I started off with this slate since the very first day. No people have been dropped, no people have been added. And we came in this collaboration because I think it's important to bring students from across campus that have diverse experiences. That includes, in general, having diverse backgrounds, experiences, but also diverse experiences within associated students. Not every single member of my slate has been involved in associated students, and I think that's something that strengthens us. Because yes, while I have been involved in associated students for the past 2.5 years, I've been able to learn this position and learn how AS works and learn what we need to improve. But also, we've been able to get that insight outside of AS and understand how can we better make AS accessible to students to be able to best represent them. So I can stand here and tell you that I am 100% confident of my team, SDS United. We are strengthened through diversity and united in community. Thank you.
Okay. Why did I decide to run with a slate?
Yes. And what's the purpose?
I decided to run with a slate because I'm a leader that understands strengths and weaknesses. I'm not a leader that does everything. I'm not a leader that has all the answers. That's why I have people to fill in the gaps for me. I selected students that have experiences that I don't have. I have not lived through the experience of every student here on campus. Even though I pride myself in being involved in a lot of different communities, I have brought people onto my team that have more involvement and more experiences in the certain communities that I bring them into. I am a leader that lets people's strengths flourish. That's how you have a team. That's how you have a team. When everyone has a strength and when everyone knows how to be a unit together to fend for every single student. And I don't know why some people say are villainizing slates, right? And then go endorse certain candidates that are running on the executive board from other slates. So I don't know if he's talking about choosing people or having his own slate, but it's still gonna happen.
Not one slate should control the whole school. Not one group of people, one group of 5 gonna control the whole school. Really?
I have another point. Certain people on this stage are villainizing experience. Villainizing the fact that I'm part of a committee. Villainizing the fact that I understand the budget.
Villainizing bureaucracy.
Elias.
Can I have some
Sorry,
time
yeah,
added?
yeah, go ahead. You
Can I have some
keep
time
going.
added?
Yeah.
Okay. Villainizing experience. How can you plan to come into associated students not having any experience and then go solve all the problems? That's naive. That's naive. You need to understand the problem to find the solution. That's why I have my team, because if I want to fend for every student, I need to understand every student. And my team, as a unit, understands every student so we can fight for every student to administration.
Thank you. Now this is added.
A group of 20 people will never represent a group of 35,000 students.
Thank you.
20
thank
people
you,
don't
and
represent
thank you.
35,000. No way.
So this is a question towards Tariq and Leanne. What happens if the student body wants to vote for you, but thinks other people in different executive roles are suited better than the ones in your slate? What should students do then?
I can start off.
Go ahead.
That's a mixed team, basically?
Yeah, so let's say if some people want to vote for some members of Leanne's team.
Okay. Yeah, that is totally fine because you should be able to choose who you think is the best fit individually. Stay up there? Yeah. There's no such thing as a perfect team. I don't believe that I have the capacity to create a perfect team. I don't think anyone on this stage or any human being on planet Earth can create the perfect team. The people that are elected are the people that are most qualified to represent the most amount of students. That's why they got the most amount of votes. I will understand these people's strengths. I will work with their strengths. I will supplement their strengths to make sure that they can play to whatever makes them strong and whatever makes them able to represent those students. I know, for example, Leanne's EVP, Sam Lingao, is a part of ambassadors. She understands a lot of students. I will realize that that is a strength. My EVP has a lot of strengths. She works at TEDx. She has all these strengths. She has involvement in business fraternities. I will see these people's strengths, and I will utilize their strengths, and I will make sure that their strengths are fully maximized so that the students can feel their impact.
Thank you. Leanne?
Thank you. I'd like to bring it back to the question of it's okay for people to vote for who they want. That's the whole purpose of AS elections. That's why I'm here. That's why we're here. I was actually the one that encouraged Tarek last year to run for a position because we want people to get involved in associated students, in addition to Noah last year too. So I'm very thankful for you to be up here, and I'm proud of you for doing this. That's the whole point. We want people to run, whether you're write-in, whether you're running honestly, or whether you're running individually. That's why when I've been campaigning and having conversations with students, I encourage them to vote. Not just for me and my team, we are there to simply share our values and our goals in a humble way. So you don't need to vote for all of us. Vote for who you want. We just want you to vote, and we want to hear your voice. Thank you.
Thank you. You got 30 seconds, Elias.
Yeah, I think those are good points being made, but I think they disregard the whole idea of having slates. Like, why would you have a slate if you're going to say, don't vote for my slate, vote for whoever you want? I think it's more genuine of me to say that I'm not having a slate, so vote for me and vote for whoever you want. That's the whole point.
Thank you. All right, for this section, it's not a discussion. It's directed towards the person. Tarek, what is your plan to creating relationships with businesses and the university, and how will it create a pipeline to hire students?
Okay, let's talk about the main reason every student is sitting in this building right now. To watch these debates, first of all. Second of all, the main essence of why we're even at SDSU is to create skills within ourselves that make us valuable to the marketplace, that make us valuable to employers. That's why everyone comes to school, so they can graduate, have a fulfilling career path, be educated, do what they want to do. I'm not going to neglect the amazing 4 years that I want every student to have here. They're going to have an amazing 4, 8, 3 years, however long they stay here. But I want to make sure that students get out of college with post-graduation opportunities, because that's why everyone's here. How am I going to do that? We need to start the conversation. We need to start the conversation. We need to bring it to center stage. That's why I am planning to talk about bringing into AS an employer engagement strategy committee. When I bring that in, we're going to talk about how to get all these students jobs. That is a very broad committee, though. So what am I going to do underneath those committees? Industry advisory committees for engineering students, for business students, for political science students, for art students. All of those students need jobs. All of those students need maximum attention. We'll talk about those, and then those things will funnel into employer engagement strategy committees.
Thank you. Leanne, what do you see as safety issues on campus, and how do you propose to combat them?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And I think, as mentioned before, safety is something that is very intersectional. That includes physical safety, emotional, mental safety, and that's why it's important that we have that accessibility to basic need resources here on campus. Currently being the campus community representative right now, and we've brought back, and the chair of the campus safety subcommittee, I want to continue the involvement and development to ensure these projects are continued. And as I've mentioned before, this position doesn't start once you're elected. It starts with the position you have previously, the work you're currently doing. And so last week, I had the opportunity to host a campus safety fair here in the Union. We had the opportunity to have transportation and parking services. We had the opportunity to have University Police Department, but also understanding that not all students feel safe and secure with police presence. So taking approach and an individualized approach for each and every single one of these communities is key to ensuring that we can assure safety to these students. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So for this next section, we reached out on a survey, and people from the student body wrote down questions and comments. So for this section, we're going to leave it open, whoever wants to answer first, but I would suggest that everyone answer. Some people brought up the issue with SDSU's mascot, saying it appropriates a community. Would you consider moving to change the mascot? Why or why not?
I would definitely listen to that conversation. With regards to the Aztec, it's not relevant here. Like, we ask ourselves, were Aztecs here? Historically speaking, no. Right? Like, we don't need to be the Aztecs. We need to talk to the native groups here, like the Kumeyaay and all these native groups that need representation on campus, who are going to advise us on the next steps. There are so many different ways we can go about this, but what we need is transparency on campus and including everyone in the conversation, not just those who are in the majoritarian groups, those who are underrepresented, like the indigenous people.
I can go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I am not here to make an executive decision for all students. I'm here to entertain a conversation. There's a fine line between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. What is an Aztec? Is that cultural appropriation or cultural appreciation? I want to hear from the students. I'm not here to make a decision for all students. I'm here to facilitate a conversation between all students, and then we'll move how we see fit. And that's how all my decisions are going to work here, through the students. You are the vision. Students are the vision.
I'm not going to stand here and pretend like I know the struggles that the Native community faces. I've given a lot of thought to the Aztec, the name, the symbol, the mascot, and through this, I don't want to speak on behalf of a community. Instead, I want to gather more perspective, have these conversations, and continue these conversations. Create a tangible action plan based on what that community wants and needs in order to feel respected and welcome to this campus. Thank you.
So for this next question, how do you plan to handle future fees and how are you going to get more money into student pockets?
Like I said, I'm already working on that. With regards to fees, it's something that's going to take a while. It's something that's already, process is already ongoing. With regards to fees, it's important to hold administration accountable. Like I said with the CFAC committee, a huge win for students has just happened just this week. The $1,500 out-of-state and international fee has not been passed. It's not going to go on to the president's office because we have shown our voices as students, as regular students, as ones of the people who are out there to protect the people from these fees. Again, with the student success fee, it's a fee that doesn't actually go towards students, or a small percentage of it actually goes towards students. We're going to scrap all of that, and we're going to say fees for students are actually going to go towards students, not towards tenure-track faculty, not towards administration, not towards the corporate gains that this administration tries to get.
Okay. I want to start at the top. I want to start at the system. It's a systemic problem. Administration needs to speak to students about what the criteria for an alternative consultation is. When do students get to make suggestions, and when do students actually get to vote through a referendum? If there are not clear guidelines that are agreed upon by students and administration, this process is never going to work. We can't just fight every fee on an individual basis, one by one by one by one, and make it variable. It needs to be a consistent, blanketed approach. This is what students want, and this is what students think should be in a referendum, and this is what students think should be in an alternative consultation. What's the definition of a democracy? Voting. If there's something that affects all students should vote. Not all students should suggest things, and then one person in administration makes the biggest decision. On a democracy, everyone makes a decision. This school should be run like a democracy. We need to create guidelines first, so that after the guidelines are created, we can understand how to approach every unfair fee or fair fee.
Thank you.
Tackling at its core.
The alternative consultation does not encompass the entire student voice. And I think that's why the referendum is a better option to ensuring that the student voice is heard when it comes down to fees. For example, the referendum basically is a yes or no answer. If students want something or a fee to be implemented and their answer is yes, then it passes. So it doesn't rely on the president of the university, Adela de la Torre, to make that final decision. Instead, students' voices are directly being heard. But with answering the actual question of the fee, I think it's important two solutions to consider. So as mentioned before, the student success fee is not always used. It also has a very broad description, so making sure that we could use these extra funds towards research and towards academic programs. Also, as mentioned before, the university, again, has a $1 billion budget. So holding them accountable to pay for what they say they prioritize is key. We as students deserve to get these resources that they're promising us. Thank you.
Dealing with fees shouldn't be top-down. It should be bottom-up, starting with the students, starting with those who are affected by it. We need to unite as students and stand up against these fees.
Is there a question?
Y'all got one more minute left to discuss this, so
Okay.
go ahead.
I want to say one thing about the student success fee. The reason that I believe the student success fee is not being utilized and maximized by the students is because there's no education on it. It's no education on how to apply for the fee. The fee is told to students, hey, apply for this 1 week before something happens. There was a recent event where the student success fee request was the largest in history, around $200,000 for a fighting anti-Semitism event that happened just last week. This was only happening because the student that requested it understood the student success fee. He understood how to request this money. The reason that the student success fee is not being utilized is because there's no education on it. I am educated on how to request for the student success fee. I will make sure every student is educated on how to request for the student success fee so that they can use their time here at SDSU to the maximum capacity.
Thank you. Leanne, go ahead. Do you have anything else? Elias or Leanne, do you have any last comments?
Just with regards to this fee, we're saying almost the same thing, just in different ways. I'm saying that students need to be brought up from the bottom up, that it should start with students, and others are saying that it should start with administration. At the end of the day, we need to be united. We have a common goal. I know Leanne wants to save students from fees that are unnecessary. I know Tarek wants the same thing. It's just a matter of how that's going to get done, and it needs to start with the students.
Thank you. All right, this is going to be a 4-minute debate. What are some of the bad things and good things you saw from AS in the current positions, and what do you want to change or keep?
I want to say one thing about the current leaders of AS. A lot of the time, it's very easy to kind of dog like whoever is currently in power. I want to say one thing about my current AS leaders now, especially the executive board, are they're people who lead with kindness. One thing about me is, I'm well aware of it, is I'm known to have a little bit of an edge. A little bit, but that's because I'm a genuine person. And these leaders have taught me the importance of leading with compassion and just genuinely being kind to people. One thing that has been tremendously touching to me is our VP of University Affairs, Sandy. She writes personal letters to our council members because she genuinely cares. This is something that I want to go in there and be inspired by them to do. Currently, AS stands under a slogan of, "We are all AS," meaning all students, no matter what walk of life, come from AS. And I think what I can take further from that is kind of making it more of an action to genuinely show that we are all of AS. I'm the only one here who's not representing Greek life. I'm the only student who comes from minority organizations such as MENA and MSA. And I'm a student who's going to stand up for all students, not just a few.
I'll go next on this topic. I'm going to admit, AS is not perfect, and I'm not going to stand here and try to tell you that it is. And I think something that we really need to improve on is the outreach. Because right now, there is a stigma that AS has to be a certain person, this elitist thing, but it's really not. As mentioned before, AS is every single student on campus. Whether you just use our facilities, go to the ARC, go to Via Hazarina, use them for great events like the Noah Heitkin Basketball Memorial Tournament. So I think it's important to understand that we as student leaders, a part of Associated Students, it's our job too to make it accessible. But an action plan for that is making sure that we're working with marketing, even something just as simple to promote voting. A lot of people don't know that AS elections are happening. A lot of people don't know that they have the opportunity to run in AS elections, so that's something that I want to improve. Looking for different approaches that we can take to ensure that students are made aware of this. I think something that AS does really well is encouraging students to stand up for what they want to see in this campus, and I think the passion is something that needs to continue. Something that needs to continue with different students that come from diverse backgrounds, that have diverse passions, because that is the beauty of Associated Students. And that is what will make the change. Thank you.
Getting your voice heard is way too hard. There's a bureaucratic system for every student that they have to go through in order to get their voices heard in administration. And if you're gonna get your voice heard, you're gonna waste a valuable amount of your time by hopping on 25 Zoom calls, saying, oh, this is bad, this is bad. They're like, okay, you should take that up with this person. And then you move down the ladder until 8 months later, you get lucky enough to talk to someone or send an email to someone directly. That's never gonna happen again. I have been on the ground in the beginning, since AS, talking to students one-on-one. I have worked with different clubs to ensure that they get fundraising and explaining to them how Financial Affairs Committee works. That's an example. I've gone to American Marketing Association telling them, look, you can come to the Marketing and Communications committee at Associated Students. I can talk about outreach all I want, but I've already lived it. I've already done it. The best way to do it now is to scale up the approach. I'm going to scale it up so every student knows how to get their voices heard and knows how to get money and knows how to use AS resources and maximize AS resources so nothing's coming out of anyone's pockets and so nothing is going to hurt students before they come to us.
Thank you.
Furthermore, on the bureaucracy
Elias,
of...
that's it for that section.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you. All right, so you're each going to have a minute to tell the audience why you're the right fit. Leanne, go ahead and start off.
All right, thank you. So, as mentioned before, I ran for this position because this is a position that less than 10% of women hold. And I think that my experience with Associated Students for the past 2.5 years, understanding that I've worked on the University Council side, the Campus Life Council side, and I currently serve as the Aztec Shops Board of Director, which I would continue if I am elected as president. I think having this understanding of Associated Students is crucial in order to start making that change the second I am elected, if I am. In addition to that, I've also served on several philanthropic organizations such as the Dance Marathon Leadership Team, Rotaract. I'm also involved in research programs. I'm also a commuter student that understands what it's like to have to pay your own tuition, pay your own housing. So I am a student just like you, and I want to work together so that we're able to address these issues, hold administration accountable, and continue to work to make sure that you have what you need to be successful at SDSU. Thank you.
Thank you. Elias, you're next.
My slogan for this campaign is one for the underdog. One thing that's for sure, standing next to two AS elites, I am an underdog in this election. They're not expecting me to win, that's for sure. And I'm running against two slates. I'm running because I want the students to pick the board. At the same time as I am an underdog in this election, I am one for the underdog. I'm a man of the people. I'm one who is going to represent the underdog on campus, the one who has not been involved, the one who has historically been left out of the conversation. I'm going to give everyone a seat at the table, and let's make the unexpected this election. Let's give one to the underdog. Thank you.
I'm here to represent all students. I'm not going to exclude any students. I'm not going to exclude Greek life. Every student is a student here. I'm here to represent everyone. I decided to run for this position because I had a vision. I did not have a vision because I decided to run for this position. The vision came first. I am running out of a duty that I feel to provide the solutions that I see and I noticed problems for. I am here running for your president with clear goals, an easy language that everyone can understand, and clear steps on how to get them done. I am here on this podium to explain my vision to all of you. But more importantly, I am here to listen. I'm here to converse. I am here to try to understand you and your problems. And I'll keep trying until I do understand. I am here to take your problems directly to administration, strengthen shared governance, make sure administration face real checks and balances, not just performative ones. I'm here to be your next accessible president so that professional post-graduation opportunities become accessible to you.
Thank you.
Dude, that was good. Good job.
The AS presidential debates just wrapped up. Again, the candidates are Tarek Mosey, Ilias Bantable, and Leanne Lacano. They spoke about representation for students, access to AS resources, and the student success fee. Voting for all positions starts next week, Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Results will be announced March 23rd, which is a Thursday at 9 p.m. Thank you everyone for coming. Live at the Aztec Student Union Courtyard, Alex Lai, Daily Aztec.